all better off, and we're all better off. And I say that to make a point. What the heck is this guy doing coming all the way out here from California? And it is in that spirit of mutuality. It is in that recognition that we're all in this together that moves me and moved me out to make a case anew on behalf of the President of the United States and our Vice President, my old friend, not a time of life, she's still young, but someone I've known for 25 years, who I served with, Kamala Harris, as DA, when I was mayor of San Francisco, when she was Attorney General, when I was Lieutenant Governor of the state of California, and privileged when she ascended to the Senate, and of course, now as our Vice President. I'm here proudly on their behalf to make a case for their re-election this November, and how you can share your action and passion to help advance the cause that I think unites all of us here together. And so thank you for the privilege of this opportunity, and thank you for the privilege of just a few moments, if I may, to make my case on behalf of this remarkable administration. Now, I'm not naive about the stacking of stress the last few years. If you haven't felt some anxiety and stress, I don't think you've been paying attention. It's been hard. No one's denying that. The last number of years, the global pandemic, all the racial injustice that manifested on our streets, challenges we face as it relates to feeling polarized, many of us almost traumatized by the polarization of our politics. The sense that people are weaponizing grievances. People are talking down to people. Some are talking past people. Feel like hate is on the rise, racism on the rise, anti-Semitism on the rise. There's just a sense that people feel free to shove. And they're expressing themselves in ways that don't necessarily always inure to our better angels. And I just want to acknowledge that up front. Our mood's been a little sour because of issues that have come out of that pandemic, and supply chain issues, and invasion in Ukraine, issues that have disrupted global supply chains and led to global increases in inflation. Now, in order to tame that inflation, issues related to interest rates, putting a lot of stress on people's pocketbooks and their sense of self and their optimism about the future. I acknowledge all of that, but I want to make a case that the work that the Biden-Harris administration has been doing in the last 3 years is nothing short of a masterclass. I believe it, and I've got the receipts. They've got the receipts. Just think about this. Think about this. Think about this. In the last 3 years, and by the way, it's only been 3 years, they literally just celebrated their 3rd anniversary. And so it's fresh in my mind because they put out their own report card. And I want to share it with you because I think it needs to be shared. Because one thing I learned from my mom, God bless her, she passed away about 19 years ago. She said, "You're nothing but a mirror of your consistent thoughts. Whatever you focus on, you'll find more of. Whatever you focus on, you'll feel." And so the question is, what are we focused on? Are we focused on what's wrong? Is we focus on what divides us, what's missing? Or can we get focused anew on what's working? Because that's available to us as well. And I just want to make the following points in that light and in that spirit. Do you realize, I don't think people fully realize, those 4 years, you talk about trauma during the Trump years, we had a 14.7% unemployment rate at peak under Trump. We lost 2.9 million jobs. We were a laughing stock in our allies all around the world. People feeling, talk about traumatized and belittled, criticized. Consider now, just 3 years later, unemployment's the lowest it's been in our lifetimes. It's down to 3.7, 3.9% on any given year over the last 5 years. Lowest since the 1960s. We've seen 14.3 million new American jobs created in just 36 months. By the way, that's 10 times more than the last 3 Republican administrations combined. I'll repeat that, 14 million jobs 10 times more in the last 3 Republican administrations. Why? The lowest Hispanic unemployment in history, the lowest unemployment for women in 7 years, the lowest black unemployment in history, the lowest uninsured rate in American history today under the Biden-Harris administration. 2/3 reduction in interest, or rather in inflation, in the last year and a half or so. We are moving in the right direction. The most significant investments in infrastructure since President Eisenhower was in office. $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. By the way, you remember with Trump, Infrastructure Week became, literally became a punchline. Biden-Harris delivered. You've seen it, the most significant climate package in U.S. history. No administration in history has done more to make investments. By the way, you're beneficiaries of those investments. Look at the new investment in that EV manufacturer just down the road. Scout Motors, $2 billion investment in electric vehicles coming right here into South Carolina because of the investments and the policies that were advanced by this administration. The CHIPS and Science Act, something I appreciate coming from a state of dreamers, doers, of entrepreneurs and innovators. California, our state, our nation, wanting to be on the leading and cutting edge. $52 billion in the CHIPS and Manufacturing Act. Trying to get supply chains on, get manufacturing back in the United States of America. We're moving in the right direction. I am proud of the work the Biden-Harris administration has done. And so I'm here because we are back. You got these guys elected. You are responsible for this administration. Joe Biden would not be president of the United States except for what happened out here in South Carolina a little over 3 years ago. And I want to just thank you for that. And I want to invite you to be part of the history we can make again into the future, because you have a primary in a matter of weeks on February 3rd. It's the first in the nation. One thing I've learned in politics, loyalty. It matters. That's why I'm here. I believe in these guys. I believe in President Biden's character, his decency, his experience, his wisdom, his temperance. And I also believe he deserves to be reelected as President of the United States. And you have the opportunity on February 3rd to show up and to show that we have his back as we turn the page to the general election. And I say turn the page, and I'll close on this, Mr. President, and look forward to the conversation. But consider the page that we're turning. And this is where I share some of your fear and anxiety. In my entire life, I'm an old guy. I was born literally in this country at a time where blacks couldn't marry whites in 16 states. That wasn't the black and white movie days. It wasn't that long ago. Till Loving versus State of Virginia. You remember Richard Loving and Mildred Jeter. He was sentenced. You talk about the Bible. The judge, when he sentenced Richard to 1 year in prison or 25 years on a suspended sentence if he left the state of Virginia, he said, God, sir, in his sentencing, he said, God never wanted races to mix. He put races on different continents, the judge said, for a reason. Think about that. Using that to justify that level of discrimination. That was the year of my birth. Every year and decade since, we've seen an expansion of national rights, without exception, every year, until the last few years. And you're seeing it in states like yours. These 6-week bans. You're seeing it in those efforts all the time, just down the road at the State House. You're seeing it in states like Florida. I don't know if you saw today, they have a travel ban. Now in places like Tennessee and Oklahoma, they're promoting to mirror what they did in Idaho as it relates to people trying to get reproductive care if they're minors. You're seeing rights regression now, not a rights expansion. My entire life has been about rights expansion. Now it's about rights regression. Think about it. Look about your voter ID law out here. Look what's happening on civil rights and voting rights, LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just access to abortion, but also reproductive care. They're coming after contraception. You know that. That's what's on the other side of this election. Simple as this. It's daylight and darkness. It really is. That's the choice. Pretty simple choice this November. But it's a profound and consequential choice, because these guys want America in reverse. They want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. It's true. Mr. Mayor, you know this. Someone want to recreate the 19th century. forces of transformation versus the forces of restoration. These folks want to restore the way this world looked when Richard, Loving, and Mildred Jeter were born. You cannot take that for granted. And I'll be honest with you, I frankly have. I've been at this 50 years. I was kind of just going along saying, it's just, we're going to see these expansion of rights for decades and decades and decades. And then I just woke up. I started realizing, what the heck is going on in these red states? In real time. Look at that guy Ron DeSantis was doing. All that anti-woke stuff, what he means is anti-black. That's what he means. It's what he means. Why else is he censoring historical facts? Why were they trying to, literally, they tried to erase Rosa Parks' race in social studies books, as if that didn't merit any consideration in the history of the Civil Rights Movement. AP African American Studies. Slavery, somehow, is a workforce development program. Look at people straight in the face defending that. That's what's on the other side. Again, difference in daylight and darkness. These guys are on a cultural purge. You guys are all smart enough. CRT. That was all they ever heard. CRT. They didn't even know what it meant. They still don't even know what it is. But it had to be banned. And then it was all about ESG. Now it's all about DEI, Mr. President. It's all about DEI. This guy talks about pluralism. What president uses that word anymore? We practice pluralism. Democrats. These guys are coming after DEI programs. All across the country. Watch that space. Different daylight and darkness. Trump versus Biden. You can't sit this one out. You cannot sit this one out. You can't take things for granted anymore. These guys are ruthless. And I don't think I know this. I know this. I've had 3 elections for governor in the last 4 years. And by the way, I have a 4-year term. How is that possible? Well, they tried to recall me. RNC came in. Federal RNC said, let's take that guy out. All these guys on Fox and the propaganda network, the entertainment wing, the Republican Party, the surround sound, going out there and they try to take me out. Woke me up. That's why I'm here. We can't take this moment for granted. And I just want to close on this, because you brought up civics, Mr. President. You talk about this institution and its history. You know, there was a great Supreme Court justice who once remarked that in a democracy, the most important, this was at Brandeis, said in a democracy, the most important office is not, respectfully, mayor, city council member, president of the university, certainly not governor. The most important office in democracy is office of citizen. Active, not inert citizenship. And it's a way of expressing this. You have agency. You can shape the future. The future is not something to experience. It's something to manifest. Think about that. Dr. King didn't wait to be president of the United States. Change the world. You don't celebrate former President Martin Luther King Day. I don't celebrate out in California a hero by the name of Cesar Chavez, former governor. He never served a day in elected office. Gandhi, how many years was he prime minister? He wasn't. I could go on and on and on. These guys changed the world because they recognized they had agency. They didn't wait to be something to do something. And so my final message to you, and the reason you are top 10 and you dominate in every single category, you already get this. But I want to reinforce and express appreciation again for your example. That you recognize you can shape the future. Because each and every one of you are leaders in your own right. You don't have to be something to do something. Because you have the one thing all of us have in abundance, but we don't use it enough. And that is you have moral authority. And one thing that is in stark contrast in this election is you got a guy, Trump, there, who sells down power, dominance, and aggression every single day, using his formal authority to demean and humiliate people. And on the other side, you've got folks like Harris and Biden that try to bring their moral authority into their work. Empathy, care, collaboration, partnership. Those are the superpowers. And that's something I hope we remember, not just in our relationship to this university, but over the course of the rest of your life. Your expression is unique. No one else has it. And so I hope you learn from it. Don't follow others. Learn from it. Don't follow others. And continue to maintain that voice, that unique, authentic voice. Share that action and passion. And bring that moral voice to the work you do every single day. And I think that describes very well the choice, the stakes of this election, and describes the difference between the Biden-Harris administration and the Trump administration. And it will determine the fate and future, not just of South Carolina, not just the United States of America, but the world we're trying to build together. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for the opportunity to share some words. Look forward